Welcome to the Fire and Earth podcast with your hosts, Jason Mefford and Kathy Groover. Fire and Earth, giving you the keys to unlock your limitless potential.
Welcome to another episode of the Fire and Earth podcast. I'm your co-host, Jason Mefford.
And I'm Kathy Groover. So, hey, Jason, question for you.
Yeah.
When you hear the word magic, what do you think of?
Well, amazement, wonder, things that you really, that happen that are just kind of amazing that we don't really understand. And I've actually used that word magic a lot in some of the speeches and stuff that I do, because I think that there's, for example, power in groups and having people come together. And so one of the concepts that I like to teach people is get the right people in the room, right? The people that you need in the room, you make connections with them, and then you just let stuff happen. And guess what? Magic happens. Because when the right people are there, they make the connections, they're working on whatever it is, it's amazing, right? What ends up coming out of that group. And so you almost have kind of that sense of wonder and awe like you do when you're watching a magic show, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, how do they do that? Sort of a thing is kind of one of the places that I tend to go with that in life. I mean, how about you, Kathy?
I've been obsessed with magic since I was a kid.
Uh-huh.
We used to go to brunch once a month at the Holiday Inn, and some Sundays they'd have a clown walking around doing balloon animals, and sometimes they'd have a strolling magician. And if I would show up and it was the balloon animal guy, I was like, because I wanted to watch the magician. It was amazing to me. And just like you said, it was that awe and that wonder. I had a magic kit when I was a kid. I'm a member at the Magic Castle. And when we do our retreat, we know we're going to the Magic Castle with everyone.
Yes, we are.
Very excited about that. But to me, that it is that suspension of disbelief. There is that buying into the possibility of anything. And I go to the Magic Castle so frequently, and I've had so many people say, oh, well, don't you know how all the tricks are done? And I say, yeah. Mm-hmm. But to me, the magic of it is knowing how it's done, maybe even seeing them do it, watching them palm that coin, watching them do that certain cut, and them doing it with such precision and such art, such artistry, that it is beautiful. And so often I spend my time looking around at the audience because I see adults, and when do we have that sense of awe? When do we have that sense of newness that we did when we were a kid? We're adults. We know everything. We know how it all works, right? But to watch adults see a card trick or something and go, oh, I mean, when do we get to have that? And that excites me so much to see people experiencing that honest, that newness, that wonder that as adults we don't often get. And I think if we can translate that into our business, into our relationships, that newness, that exploration, that openness to possibility, that to me is magic.
Well, and I think it's funny because, again, you understand the craft, right? You're behind the scenes kind of on the magic scene. Yeah. But it's like you said, I mean, it's the group of people coming together. It's the energy that you feel in the room, right? And because a magician just doing that trick by themselves is not really magic. That's like them practicing, right? But when they get in front of an audience, it's totally different, right? Because then there's that energy, there's that awe, there's that wonder that comes when we interact as groups of people, right? And I love going to sporting events. And a few times in corporate life, we'd go to the corporate, little booth thingy, I'm like a raw blue collar kind of guy, right? I don't like going to a fancy VIP suite. I would rather be out in the crowds with everybody else, because there's that same thing. There's that energy. There's that awe and wonder, and you just kind of feed off of everybody else. And so to me, again, it's really the experiences that we have together really kind of create some of this magic that can actually happen. And it's amazing. I think that life is actually made up of a lot of serendipitous experiences if you're actually looking for them and have that shock and awe and wonder of almost seeing the world like a little kid again. Right?
Well, it is about expecting the unexpected. And when you are open to that synergy, when you're open to those serendipitous moments, they tend to show up more. And to me, when you were in the flow, when you were in that space where you are there, that's when those things happen. And something that you reminded me when you said, if you're just sitting there by yourself, it's practice. And when you have the audience, that's where that interaction is. There's also an adaptability that comes with that. And at the Magic Castle, the way it's set up is there's certain showrooms where they switch magicians halfway through the night, where you get to see multiple shows in the same room. Mm-hmm. And there have been times where I've either been there a couple times a week, or I've popped in to see the same show twice in the same night because people showed up or whatever. The ability to adapt to the different audience, to the different situation. You have the drunk, loud guy in the front row that you've got to handle. You've got the giggly women in the corner that you've got to deal with. These magicians have that perfection, that adaptability to change according to the situation. It's the same show. It's the same tricks. It's the same basic pattern until somebody interrupts that, and you have to adapt to that change. You have to adapt to that different situation, that different environment. And to me, we also have to do that. We have to be able to pivot depending on, you're never going to have the same meeting twice. You're never going to do the same talk twice. I was just speaking in Austin, and they introduced me, and I get up there and I clicked my first slide and nothing happens.
I hate that. Or it's delayed and you're like,
oh my God. No, there was no delay. It just didn't work. And I look back, because it was this huge, there's 1,000 people there. I look back past all these people and I see the electronics guy going, and I'm like, oh no, that's not what you want to see. But I had to adapt to that. So suddenly I'm running down the stage and across the thing. And it literally took us 10 minutes to figure out how to get this up and running. And I get back on stage and I looked at everyone and I was out of breath and I went, thank God I talk about stress reduction.
Yeah.
And everybody started laughing. It's like, because I remained calm, except the fact that I was running back and forth in heels and a dress. But it's like, you have to take what you're given, whether it's, the wrong card or you drop all your card, you have to be able to be able to adapt to those situations. And that to me is magic also.
Well, and I think it's, again, because the magic is, we're sitting here talking, again, my mind is going kind of crazy here with all these thoughts, right? So, but it's, it really is about kind of a lot of that group interaction, I think, where magic really happens. Because if I'm just sitting here by myself, not a lot of magic probably happens. Not a lot of shock and awe and wonder, ends up happening. It ends up happening more when you're together with people, right? And there's this energetic kind of, not to buzzword synergy, kind of thing that does actually happen when you get people together. So whether it's a magic show, and like you said, you've got the obnoxious drunk guy in the front and the giggling women in the corner, or whatever it happens to be, each show that person does is going to be slightly different because there's a little bit different, dynamic or things that are going on there. But when the right people are in the room, or there's that everything just kind of goes right, it is like so amazing. And so one of the stories that I share a lot of times when I talk about this, if we can take a little musical detour here for a minite.
Of course, music and magic.
Musical magic is, the song Werewolves of London, bump, bum, bump, bum, bump, Warren Zevon. Oh, you don't know that song? Oh, we're going to play that song afterwards.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know it.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's probably his most famous song, but it's interesting in the way that song came about, because most songs take a while to actually record. Sometimes it'll take years to get a song down right. And so what actually happened was Warren was in the recording studio, and some of the names are going to drop from me right now as I'm explaining this, but somebody one of the producers had come in and he'd watched a show that night before. It was like an old early 1900s movie called Werewolves of London. Okay. And he comes in, he goes, "Hey, Warren, I think that Werewolves of London, that would make a great, line to a dance song or something. You should write a song, use that title." And he's like, "Okay, well, that's kind of weird." So he's sitting down with, it's like, okay, this is kind of weird, right? He sits down, he's collaborating with two other guys. And so one of the guys is already there, and they're like, "Yeah, Bill wants us to record this thing called Werewolves of London." I'm like, "Oh, and they're sitting there kind of talking about it. Third guy walks in, And he's like, what are you guys doing? Well, we're trying to think about, you got this crazy idea to record a song called Werewolves of London. He's like, werewolves? Like, ow, Werewolves of London? Well, that ended up in the song, right? So those three guys sat down. They had the relationship. They sit down together, and they collaborated, and music happened. Because what happened, that song has, I think it's 3 verses to it. And one of the guys had a riff, bum 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 bum, that he'd been playing with for about 3 or 4 years. Didn't know how to use it. Wow. And all of a sudden, it's like, here's where we use it. That Werewolves of London, that came in. They sat down and literally in 10 minutes, because they just went round robin and said, okay, one verse. They each one of them, kind of came out with the lyrics for one verse. And they went right around, boom, 10, 15 minutes, song was written, right? That's magic. Yeah. That's magic. But the interesting thing, like to carry on that story, right? In 10 minutes, they had a song, but they didn't record it. It took them, I think it was a couple of years to actually get the recording right.
Wow.
Because when they got into the recording studio, it was the same thing. They brought in like 5 or 6 different bands, but something wasn't right. The connection, the flow, the whatever it wasn't there until they brought in Mick Fleetwood and John McVeigh from Fleetwood Mac. And boom, one day, right? Because the two of them with the bass line and the percussion, again, the right people were in the room, and that magic happened, and that shock and awe and wonder and holy crap, Warren's probably most famous song. Yeah. When you get the right people there, the magic does happen. And even though they've done it, like the magician doing, hundreds of shows, each one of them is slightly different because of the energy and the interplay of people, right? Yeah. Which is to me is fascinating. I love it. I love magic. Yeah.
That's such a great example. I'm not typically a music person. I go towards either acting or magic or dance, but I love Queen.
Oh, yeah. Queen is another example of a band that had that magic.
Just watched Bohemian Rhapsody. Yep. And the segment of the movie where they're talking about putting that together and laying track over track over track over track over track. Yep. And then at the end, when Freddie Mercury goes off and does his own thing and he comes back and he goes, I need you guys. They gave me a band and they did everything that I told them to, and it sucked because no one challenged me. Yep. It was like there was a synergy between those 4 guys, even that conflict, but all of it was just, to me, they're one of the most perfect bands. I love their music. I love their stuff. I can thank my boyfriend in college for turning me on to Queen.
Bringing you onto that.
Oh my! Well, he was a guitarist, and we had to go way back. It was a cassette tape. I know, of Eddie Van Halen and Brian May.
Oh,
two
of the great guitarists. Yeah.
Starfleet project. They did one album together. And Rick, who does the opening music, that's who I'm talking about for our podcast. He would play this tape over and over again and make me pick which was Eddie Van Halen and which was Brian May. Who's this one? I'm like, it's Brian May. Okay, who's this? It's Eddie Van Halen. But it was hilarious because that was his passion, was music, which, our opening and closing music is fabulous. So we can thank Rick for that too. But yeah, it's like he turned me on to that aspect of magic, of how songs are created, how that, because that's not my space, but I can appreciate it.
No, and it is my space. That's why I love this. I geek out on this kind of side of it. But yeah, you're right. Queen is another one of those bands that was, a classic case study on how this works, because those 4 guys together, magic happened. Yeah. And they had a huge breadth of what they did. If you actually look at their music, it wasn't the same old, but they experimented, they played off of each other. And actually, even from a recording standpoint, there some pretty cool geeky stuff that they did in the recording studio too, to get some of the sounds that they did, but we don't have time to get into that today. But it's that same concept though of, when people come together and they have those connections, they share kind of a common purpose of what they're trying to accomplish. And then you just kind of get out of the way and just let the magic happen. Yeah. It's just amazing, what really can happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, good. I like this topic.
You like this topic? I love magic.
I love magic. Now, what we need to do is get everybody to the Magic Castle.
Okay, well, we'll figure out a way that we can do that and let everybody know about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, I think this is a great place to end. We'll do a little quickie one.
All right, sounds good.
Cool.
So,
Go forth. Make magic. Because magic happens. It's up to you. It's up to those people around you. Oh, the other example that I thought of when you were talking about bringing things together is, you can have 5 ingredients sitting on a counter. That doesn't make a cake until you mix them all together and you have that chemical reaction and you have that interaction between those ingredients. And that's what collaboration's about. So, and that's you and I. We make good magic.
Yeah, well, and it's those catalysts again, right? Those other people are like those different ingredients that when you put them together in the right order, in the right quantity, magic does happen. You get a beautiful cake, you get a beautiful music show, or magic show, or you get beautiful music, that comes out. So yeah, to help unlock your potential, make sure you're around those good people that bring out the magic in you and help bring out the magic in them as well. And everybody, let's go out there and make magic.
Woohoo! Look at things with fresh eyes and know that the impossible is possible. I'm Kathy Groover. I can be reached at kathygroover.com.
And I'm Jason Mefford. I can be reached at jasonmefford.com. We'll see you on a future episode. Have a great day.
See ya.